Welcome back to Buffalo, where last night when they turned the clocks back, they also turned the heat off. Winter has arrived early. It's, they say, mostly cloudy, although the sun is out now, but it is crisp as we welcome you back to Ralph Wilson Stadium. The Kansas City Chiefs have won the toss, and they will receive.
And there's a pretty decent breeze blowing. It really swirls inside Ralph Wilson Stadium here, and it'll be interesting to see what effect it might have on the longer passing game.
There is nothing decent about a breeze when it's this
well,
cold.
as we know, it can blow a lot harder than it is. Right now, my guess is I don't think it's a really big factor.
Quentin Demps is in the end zone awaiting the kick. Upcoming from Dan Carpenter, and we're underway in Buffalo. This one is short. Comes down inside the 15-yard line. Demps on the run across the 20 and out across the 25-yard line. So not bad starting position for the Kansas City Chiefs. They didn't want Alex Smith in San Francisco. They love him in Kansas City. Almost 1,800 yards passing, more than 250 yards running the football. He is not often thought of as one of the better running quarterbacks in the league, but he is that.
He's been very effective moving the chains. He's run the ball 49 times, Greg, for over a 5-yard per carry average. That's the best average on the whole team.
Throwing out to the far side of the field, and that is incomplete. Intended for Donnie Avery. The offensive line includes the first pick overall in this year's draft, right tackle Eric Fisher out of Central Michigan, and the Chiefs' Mr. Everything Jamal Charles, who leads his team in rushing and receiving and leads the NFL in total yards from scrimmage.
Well, this matchup between the Kansas City offensive line and this very talented defensive line of the Bills is something to really pay attention to today. A lot of wonderful athletes and high draft picks going out.
This is Charles, and Charles pushes his way out to about the 30-yard line. Buffalo's formidable front four is led by number 94, Mario Williams, 11 sacks on the year at the halfway mark. The linebacking core gets number 91, Manny Lawson, back on the outside. He's had a hamstring problem, and this Buffalo defense has 12 interceptions. Third-year safety Aaron Williams has 3 of them. 3rd and 6.
And this Buffalo defensive line, they can get after the quarterback in their own right. Mario Williams already with 11 sacks, but Darius and Williams inside get great pressure upfield.
Smith lobs it out to the far side to Jamal Charles, and Charles hit by Aaron Williams.
How Alex Smith even got rid of this with Kyle Williams all over him. Watch Williams, number 95, unblocked, and he's hanging on Alex Smith as he just flutters this thing away, and you can see Kyle Williams had a hold of Alex Smith's right arm, and that was very nearly a disastrous play for Kansas City.
Ryan Succop gets to kick it away to Leotis McKelvin. Line drive kick and very returnable from the 10. Looking for running room. There's a penalty marker down as he breaks free. Right up the middle of the field. The question is, who's guilty of the penalty marker?
It's almost certainly coming back. I don't know if McKelvin is aware of it or not, but this is almost certainly coming back.
Ron Winter. Winter is our referee.
Not only are they not going to get a touchdown, they're going to have to start back around their own 10-yard line.
It would have been an 89-yard punt return for a touchdown. McKelvin had 3 of those in his career.
During the return, illegal block in the back. Number 53, the return team. After this to the goal, first down.
Nigel Bradham guilty of the illegal block right there.
There it is, right in the middle of your screen. There's Bradham. And you have to say that was instrumental in springing Leotis McKelvin. So it's not like that was away from the play and didn't have a bearing on the big return. I think without that illegal block by Bradham on Cyrus Gray, there's no way that McKelvin breaks loose.
So there is Jeff Toole, the rookie free agent out of Washington State, who gets the call today because E.J. Manuel is still a week away and Thad Lewis not ready to play.
Well, Toole got an opportunity to play the second half when E.J. Manuel got hurt in the Cleveland game and was less than impressive. Of course, what would you expect? He didn't get any of the reps.
Fred Jackson across the 10 out to about the 12. The offensive line will be key for Jeff Toole today. Team captain Eric Wood in the middle of it at center. And tight end Scott Chandler's been a big target this season with 29 catches, 340 plus yards, and a couple of touchdowns. Toole to throw his first ball of the day. And that is complete across the 20-yard line to number 10, Robert Woods, the rookie out of USC. Kansas City brings the league's fifth best defense to town. Dontari Poe, a mountain in the middle at 6'3", 346. Tamba Ali having a great year, 9 sacks, fifth most in the league. And the leader of a ball-hawking secondary, Pro Bowl safety Eric Berry, in his 4th year out of Tennessee. First down now from their own 22 for Buffalo. Jackson looking for running room. Finding some across the 25 and out to the 29-yard line.
You know, Fred Jackson at 32 years old has still got it. And he's got the complete everything you want in a running back. Right there he showed patience and he showed power as he ran right through a tackle by Tamba Ali. And this up-tempo offense from Buffalo.
Jackson back at it, looking for the first down, and it appears to be about a yard short of it at the 31.
When you run an up-tempo offense, you talk to everyone involved, and they say what's critical is to get that first down. And you know that might sound a little trite, but you just have to avoid that 45-second 3 and out that throws your defense right back out there on the field.
Tashard Choice is onto the field, and he will be given the football, looking for the first down, and he gets it.
So here the Bills now have converted for the second time and moved the markers once again.
And what did you say at the very beginning of the day about having to run the football in order to be successful?
There's no other way about it. That's just Doug Marrone knows it. You've got a quarterback making an undrafted free agent quarterback making his first NFL start. If you don't support him with a running game or something spectacular on special teams or a couple of pick sixes, you're in big trouble.
Toole to throw. Screen. Jackson with blocking and room. Midfield. And out of bounds in Kansas City territory, close to the 45-yard line.
Not many things are better looking than a well set up screen. Fred Jackson sits, looks like he's blocking, and then he's got the guys out in front. Urbik does a nice job back to the inside, and the Kansas City defense looked like they got caught completely off guard with that screen.
Tashard Choice back onto the field in the backfield on a new set of downs at the 45. Toole over the middle, coming across the middle is Stevie Johnson. And Johnson wrestled down at the 42. That'll be about a 3-yard pickup.
And a real simple pass. And you notice everything that they've asked Toole to do so far has been very conservative. Big yardage on a screen pass. They ran a simple little hook to Robert Woods. There's as simple as it comes on a crossing pattern to Stevie Johnson.
Dad Doug Marrone told us, he said he told his young quarterback, I don't need you to feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders.
Well, he's helping him with the play calling here. Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator, keeping it simple.
2nd and 7. This is Choice to the 40. Then it'll be 3rd and 5.
There is E.J. Manuel, their number 1 draft pick out of Florida State, who all signs are pointing to him starting next week when they travel to Pittsburgh. If he progresses next week on the practice field like he did this week, it looks like he's going to be able to go, which would be really welcome news for this Buffalo team.
Toole on 3rd and 5, throwing outside and off the hands of Scott Chandler. The ball should have been caught.
Man, Chandler looked like he was knocking it down. That was Chandler's got better hands than that, but that almost looked like he was batting it instead of catching it. Don't blame Jeff Toole for that. He put it right on the hands of his tight end.
So Brian Moorman comes on to punt it away. Dexter McClusker stands back at his 10. Fair catch called for and made at the 11-yard line. Good job by Moorman on the punt. Chiefs on offense after this. As you look at rookie head coach Doug Marrone of the Bills, you take your minor victories where you can get them, Dan. It's ball starting at the 11-yard line.
Yeah, they flipped the field on Kansas City. Starting, they started on their 10. Now they're forcing Kansas City to start on the 11. And they gave their rookie quarterback some confidence along the way. He threw the ball well and should have had that drive going, but Chandler didn't drop it.
Alex Smith throwing, and that is Jamal Charles. And Charles out across the 15 to the 16-yard line. Jarris Byrd with the stop.
Well, needless to say, everyone, Jarris Byrd and the other 10 guys on the field for the Buffalo Bills, everything they do is going to revolve around tracking number 25, Jamal Charles.
On 2nd and 5. Smith throwing and completing for the first down, out across the 25 and across the 30 is Anthony Fasano, the tight end, and Manny Lawson makes the tackle.
If Fasano is not Jimmy Graham, he's not going to threaten you downfield.
71. After this is to the goal. Repeat second down.
Late flag on the play thrown on Jeff Allen, the left guard, number 71.
Well, so much for that pickup. Jeff Allen, their second-round pick out of Illinois. Here he is right there. And you can see he got, he had to reach back to the inside and drag down Marcel Darius. Looked like he also got a hand in the face as Darius was going by him.
2nd and 13.
A lot of talent on that Buffalo defensive line.
Going to the sideline, and this one is at about the 15, out to about the 16. Our first update of the day. JB and Shannon.
All right, Greg, good start for Tennessee.
Yes, this is how you start on the road. You take the opening drive. You go down the field. 7 yards later, Sean Green's into the end zone. 7-0 early. Titans over the Rams.
Greg and the Hall of Famer, Dan Dierdorf.
All right, guys, thank you very much. 3rd and 5 now for Kansas City. You're talking about the Bills as they look forward to getting their quarterback. They're Jake Locker back in action for Tennessee. Another sideline pass. Jamal Charles again, and this one is good enough for a first down.
Well, it looked like Charles' momentum was going to carry him out of bounds. And boy, does he do a good job of walking the tightrope along that sidelines to pick up the first down. He really had to fight to keep from getting carried out right there. But he kept that right foot in bounds, and that was the yardage necessary to pick up the first down. If he'd have gotten carried out right there, they'd be punting.
Charles. Boy, you talk about how instrumental Jamal Charles is to this offense. That was the 58th time this year that he had gained a first down for these Chiefs.
Just think about that. His productivity is just off the charts. But, keep in mind, they won 2 games last year, but he ran for over 1,500 yards and over a 5-yard per carry average. It's hard to be that good and that obscure at the same time.
Smith to throw on 2nd and 8, sideline pass complete to Dwayne Bowe.
Dwayne Bowe, the number 1 draft pick back in 2007, there was a time where, you just wondered where his career was headed. But he has really revived his career, and he has become a real threat. That just was a good effort at catching a football that was kind of low, and that results in a drop a lot of times.
Another first down for Smith and the Chiefs. This is Charles. And you can tell right off the bat, Dan, that the Chiefs don't expect Alex Smith to do a whole lot. There's a lot of screens, a lot of sideline passes so far.
Well, you know, Andy Reid calls the plays, and that has been Andy's MO ever since he came in the National Football League. His 14 years in Philadelphia, that's the type of offense he ran. He likes a quarterback who can get out and move the chains with his legs, and it is a high percentage true West Coast passing game.
Charles once again. You know, one thing you were relentless in talking to Jamaal Charles about, can he keep up this pace that he has set so far in the first half of this year? He touches the ball an awful lot.
And this is it. Yeah, take a look at the percentage of his team's total yards. And Jamaal Charles way ahead of Peterson, McCoy, Matt Forte. In my estimation, they've got to start working in. They've got a rookie named Niall Davis, and I think this guy has got to get some of Charles' touches in the second half of the season if you want to have him have anything left come playoff time.
3rd and 7. Smith spinning away from pressure. Penalty marker is thrown, and Smith has run out of bounds short of the 40-yard line.
Well, they're going to get Rodney Hudson to center. Boy, you talk about holding a guy out in the middle.
Hold it. Offense number 61. What is the clock? Makes it 4th down.
Yeah, Hudson, that's him right there grabbing Kyle Williams. And Kyle Williams, just one of the most active defensive tackles. You saw him on the first play of the game all over Alex Smith. And we talked about this matchup. This Buffalo defensive line, Williams and Darius and Mario Williams in particular, they can change a game.
Chiefs failed to convert the first down on the play, so the Bills decline the penalty, and Leotis McKelvin deep again. Had an 89-yard touchdown call back the last time we did this. This would be a fair catch called for and made at the 11-yard line. 4:02 to play in a scoreless first quarter in Buffalo.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. Verizon. When it matters, Droid does. And by E-Trade.
We're scoreless, just over 4 minutes to play in the first quarter, and number 28, C.J. Spiller, back onto the field. That's got to be a delight for Buffalo fans. Tool, deep drop, throwing, and across the 25, close to the 30-yard line. Robert Woods makes his second catch of the day for a first down.
Now Woods is working against Brandon Flowers. It's man coverage, and Toole's looking at him all the way after a kind of a belated little fake. But right there, Woods was able to plant and come back, and Flowers lost his footing a little bit. And Robert Woods, this rookie that left USC as their all-time leading receiver, he's really starting to blossom.
This is Spiller. Spiller's been fighting a high ankle sprain, and he's back into the lineup now after missing a little bit of time. And this is a look at Jeff Toole. And, you're not alone if you really haven't heard much about him.
Well, he played at Washington State. He basically was a starter there for a couple of years. Did not have a lot of success. I think he was 4-22 as a starter at Washington State. Of course, that's certainly not all his fault. It wasn't a very good program when he was there. But again, this is a tall task against this defense.
Spiller changes direction, going the other way, gets a block, and is run out of bounds at about the 40-yard line. That's very close to a first down. Eric Berry knocked him out of bounds.
And his lead blocker, when he doubles around to the left, becomes his quarterback, Jeff Toole. Now here's Toole staying alive. All of a sudden he realizes Spiller is behind him, and look at that good block. He gets right out in front on Sean Smith and takes him out of the play.
Fred Jackson comes back into the lineup now. New set of downs. at the 40-yard line. Toole gonna go deep. Broken up, intended for T.J. Graham and covered by Marcus Cooper.
Well, I think this is really important for Buffalo that they take this shot, because if they try to do everything with the short intermediate stuff, Kansas City's going to start sitting on it, and I'm telling you, this could have easily ended up being a Buffalo completion.
Instead, it is 2nd and 10. Fred Jackson for a couple. Up the middle, Mike DeVito, Eric Berry with the stop. Hey, fantasy football fans, check out CBSSports.com Player Challenge. A new 4-week game with a cash prize in every league. See rules and sign up at CBSSports.com/challenge.
Greg, that long ball that Toole just threw, that's the easiest pass for a young quarterback to do, because it really requires no reading of the defense or whatever. You're just taking 3 steps back there and launching. And everybody in Buffalo says Toole does that pretty well.
3rd and 8. He's going to do it again. And he hits his man, Marquise Goodwin, for the touchdown.
Well, normally when you take a shot and you come back with something shorter or something more high percentage. And what does Buffalo do? They come right back with it. And Cooper is just befuddled by the fact that Marquise Goodwin is going to run another go route. He guessed, and he guessed really poorly, because Goodwin was running another go route and hit in stride by Jeff Toole.
59 yards.
And notice has been officially served on the Kansas City Chiefs. We could care less that you're undefeated.
The extra point is good. The Bills fans are ecstatic. Buffalo leading the undefeated Chiefs 7-0. The longest Bills passing play of this season. 59 yards, Jeff Toole to Marquise Goodwin. And it's a 7-0 Bills lead. Quentin Demps will run this one out of the end zone from 5 yards deep. And cut down before he reaches the 20-yard line. Chris Hogan with the special teams play. Jeff Toole off his first career touchdown pass in the NFL.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by MetLife. I can do this. And by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot.
Back at Ralph Wilson Stadium, 1:47 to play in the first quarter, and Buffalo with a 7-0 lead on Jeff Toole's 59-yard touchdown pass. And the Chiefs now start from their own 16-yard line with Jamaal Charles in the backfield. Smith, crossing pattern, hits Dwayne Bowe. And Bowe has a first down out to the 28. Let's go back to that touchdown pass.
Yeah, let's do that, Greg. A pair of rookies on the outside here. Here's Cooper, but watch the safety play right here. You got a 2-deep safety look. That's Kendrick Lewis, the safety. He's got some deep outside responsibilities, and he just can't get there. He just cannot get there. And as that safety and that responsibility and in that spot, you've got to have the deep outside. You've got to keep that play in front of you.
First down Chiefs at their own 28. Smith with the short pop across the 30 to Donnie Avery, his first catch of the day, and hit immediately by Stephon Gilmore. As we dip inside, 50 seconds to play here in the first.
Well, Kansas City right now is finding something out that, you know, they don't come here to Buffalo all that often, but they're finding out that there's a little bit of Arrowhead here in Orchard Park, New York. This is a tough place to win, regardless of what Buffalo's record happens to be at the time.
The pitch for Charles, right side, looking for running room and finds it with a couple of blocks. and he's out of bounds across the 40 at about the 42, maybe the 43-yard line.
Well, and Jamal Charles shows a lot of patience there, allowing the blocking to develop in front of him.
And that looks like that'll be the last play of this first quarter. And the Bills fans turn to each other and say, so far so good. 15 minutes gone, lots of playing time remaining at the end of one here at Ralph Wilson Stadium. Buffalo 7, Kansas City nothing. We're back in just a moment. Quarterback Alex Smith in his 9th season. We talked to Andy Reid last night. He was delighted to be able to acquire him.
You know, Andy just made the point. I didn't look so much at what he did in San Francisco. I just went back to remembering how much I loved him coming out of Utah and what I thought he could do. And he said he's the perfect fit for what I want.
Play fake. That's complete to Dwayne Bowe. And Bowe across midfield and into Buffalo territory at the 47-yard line. Stephon Gilmore again with the tackle.
And again, Dwayne Bowe is so savvy in his 7th year now from LSU, and he's just an inviting target. And Alex Smith fell in love with him immediately. Now from the wide receiver position, Bowe's his favorite target. Although Jamal Charles coming into the game, 15 more receptions than Dwayne Bowe. That's how active Jamal Charles is.
Lobbing it and wide open and overthrowing his tight end, Fasano. And a penalty marker fly. That looks like it may be a hit on a defenseless receiver. Jairus Byrd.
Boy, that is so unnecessary if that's the case.
Personal foul. Defense number 31. Contact in the head of the defenseless receiver. 15-yard penalty. First down.
This ball is severely overthrown by Alex Smith. It just completely gets away from him. And Jairus Byrd running by. What does he use to hit? Oh, that's his shoulder pad right into the face of Fasano. It didn't look intentional. It didn't look like he meant to do it, but do it he did. And when you see a receiver who's defenseless and you see his head snap to the level that Fasano's head snapped, that's a penalty.
Kansas City now first down at the Buffalo 32. Quick pass out to the side to Chad Hall. And we have another penalty mark.
Well, Aaron Williams, the safety, was all over that.
Holding. Offense number 61. A 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
Well, Rodney Hudson already having a bad day.
Well, that's his second one. Here he is right here in the middle. Oh, and he got, well, first of all, they're asking the impossible for him to try to block Kyle Williams, who's an entire man removed. Williams was on the outside shoulder of the left guard.
Dan, when you played, weren't you at least a little bit subtle about it?
Well, I was never asked to block a guy who was that far away. That's impossible. You can't do that without grabbing.
First and 20. Alex Smith with the screen for Jamal Charles. Nowhere to go. Waits for a block. And to about the 41. Let's get another update from the NFL Today in New York. JB and Shannon.
Hey, Greg, it pays to be alert.
JB, Lawrence guy has already blocked the field goal. He gets his hands up. This is deflected. Sean Liskman into the end zone. The 5th straight time the Washington Redskins have allowed a defensive touchdown. 7-0 early. Charge.
Greg Gumbel, Dan Deerdorf.
All right, guys, thank you. Look at the AFC West. And by the way, we send our good wishes out to our friend John Fox.
We certainly do.
Quick recovery, the head coach of the Denver Broncos.
John, good luck with your surgery this week.
2nd and 19. Alex Smith lost the football. It's on the ground. Who's got it? Still rolling, and the Chiefs cover it at midfield.
Oh, Buffalo had it, and they booted it away. one of the Bills had the ball in his hands and just can't control it. First of all, the clock has got to go off in Alex Smith's head. Let's see who. Here it comes right there. Oh, from this angle, we'll see which Buffalo player. Oh, was that Leotis McKelvin? I believe it was, number 21. McKelvin, geez, he's sure-handed. He's their best punt returner. You'd think he'd be able to handle that football. What a fortunate break for Kansas City.
Meanwhile, Alex Smith now looking at a 3rd and 27. Niall Davis, the rookie, is in at running back. Smith going to go deep. Far sideline it is. Caught and out of bounds. Incomplete. Dwayne Bowe made the catch, but he's ruled out of bounds.
I think Stephon Gilmore had great awareness there. He knows he's got the field covered, that there's no way Bowe can catch that thing in bounds. At the last minute, he sees the football, turns away from it, but that ball in that position, I don't think under any circumstances could Bowe have kept his feet in bounds and caught the ball.
McKelvin inside his 10 for the punt. Dustin Colquitt will get this one away from about his own 40. McKelvin going to let it bounce and rolls into the end zone for the touchback. 11:57 to play in the first half. Buffalo gets the ball back, leading by a touchdown. Buffalo getting set to start from their own 20-yard line. And C.J. Spiller will be in the backfield along with Jeff Toole. Play fake to him. Over the middle. Intercepted. Picked off at about the 42-yard line by Kansas City's Kendrick Lewis.
And right there was a miscommunication between quarterback and receiver. That ball just sails right over the head of Chandler. A pretty easy INT.
Kansas City came into this game with 10 fumble recoveries, 10 interceptions. That's the 21st takeaway of the season for the Chiefs. They start with terrific field position and Jamal Charles to the 35. Let's go back to that interception.
You know, Greg, when I first watched this, I thought maybe there was a miscommunication, but in reality, it was just a severe overthrow by Toole trying to go to Chandler. You're going to get a good look at it here from behind. This ball just completely gets away from Jeff Toole. No pressure at all in the pocket, and a really good job that time by Lewis of staying with the football and getting his hand underneath it and controlling.
Lewis with his first interception of the year, 2nd and 4. Smith on the move and throwing incomplete, a little bit low to Dexter McCluster. Once again, back to New York. JB and Shannon Sharp.
Jimmy Graham will have to be paid.
Yes, JB. Watch the play fake. Drew Brees gets a little pressure in his face, slides to his left, throws back to the right. Jimmy Graham tries to keep him out of the end zone, but he just can't. 51-yard touchdown, 7-3 Saints over the Jets.
Greg and Dan.
All right, guys, thank you. A look at the AFC East. Buffalo bringing up the rear, and Miami starting the day at 4-4. 3rd and 4. And we will not get a play here. With time running down on the play clock, Kansas City uses a timeout. So we have 11:10 to play in the first half. Time for us to remind you it's an all-new night of comedy on CBS, beginning with How I Met Your Mother and Two Broke Girls, followed by the premiere of the new Mike and Molly and Mom. It all starts tomorrow at 8, 7 Central, only CBS.
I don't think Alex Smith is very happy with himself. He would have had a pretty routine conversion to move the chains, except he really threw the ball down there at Dexter McCluster's ankles. That's a pretty easy pitch and catch, and that's as routine of a throw as a quarterback gets. And now he's got to convert a 3rd and 4. A passing situation.
Although this is one of those times when Alex Smith shows he can move the chains with his feet.
He can run, and of course he's got number 25 who can do both. Run and catch. Buffalo showing a blitz.
Dodging one, and then another, and Smith throwing sideline, and that is complete for the first down to Dwayne Bowe. And that's a terrific job eluding the pressure. Aaron Williams get a first shot at him.
Well, it's a great job of getting away from pressure, but it's also an excellent job by Dwayne Bowe of making himself a target, and he positions himself right on the sideline, and somehow the Buffalo defense lost track of it. Stephon Gilmore sees him at the last minute. That was an unlikely conversion. That stings for a defense to have a quarterback on the run like that and let him move the chains.
Kansas City now at the Buffalo 29. Smith to throw again. Incomplete at the 15-yard line. That pass intended for Bowe.
Well, that actually, I think, was a throw low and away from Alex Smith because of how good the coverage was by Aaron Williams. You got to give the safety, Aaron Williams, some credit there. He is all over Bowe, and you can see they tangle their feet a little bit at the end. But Alex Smith has no choice but to throw this someplace where Williams can't get to it. They did tangle their feet up, but that's totally inadvertent.
2nd and 10. Quick pass is complete to Avery, and Avery just inside the 20-yard line.
Donnie Avery, who played in Indianapolis last year, prior to that with the Rams. Nothing complicated about that, aided greatly by the fact that both Buffalo defenders choose not to make the tackle. You got two guys there, and neither one of them hits him.
3rd and short. You look at Kansas City's red zone offense.
And when you talk about short, Greg, you're talking about maybe a foot.
Play clock is down to 5.
They're not going to get this off. Well, they just reset it. Ron Winter reset the play clock to 25.
On 3rd and 1, they'll give it to the fullback, Anthony Sherman, who has the first down at about the 18.
Well, there's a tendency buster with Anthony Sherman carrying the football. That's his first carry of the year. He's a blocker and a very good pass receiver. But that's a tendency breaker when you give it to him to convert on 3rd down.
So the Chiefs now first down at the Bills' 18. Smith over the middle, inside the 15. The catch is made by McCluster.
Boy, and again, not a great throw from Alex Smith. McCluster had to kind of wait for that ball and go down and get it a little bit. If he'd have caught that in stride, not sure what might have happened. But Kansas City making the most of the first drive for either team that started in really good field position after that turnover.
Smith now spreads the field on 2nd and 3. Quick pass to the side and bobbled and incomplete. Dwayne Bowe had it and dropped it. Third and 3.
Well, you can't deliver it any better than that. And just a classic case of Dwayne Bowe. You can see his head turn, his eyes go downfield. Didn't look it in and paid for it.
Buffalo fans imploring their defense to make a stand. Smith throwing. Charles out of the backfield. Make it Dexter McCluster. And Jarris Byrd hit him just inside the 10-yard line.
Nickel Roby, I believe, number 37, puts a shoulder right into McCluster. And talk about decleating a guy and keeping him from moving the sticks. Roby, what a shot.
So Ryan Suckup now with a chance to get the Chiefs on the board from 27 yards out. And that kick is good. Exactly 7.5 minutes to play here in the first half. It's 7-3 Buffalo.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Fidelity Investments. Take control of your personal economy. Pepsi, live for now. And by Universal Pictures, The Best Man Holiday, rated R, in theaters November 15th.
Back in Buffalo, New York, 7.5 minutes to play. In the first half, the Bills with a 7-3 lead. The Chiefs get a field goal off the turnover, the interception of Toole. And Marquise Goodwin is deep for the kick from Sutton. And they'll have a chance to run this one back. To the 15 and out across the 20-yard line. The 21-yard line is where the football will be when we come back in just a moment. A look at the numbers for each quarterback as we get underway here. 7:25 to play in the first half. C.J. Spiller on the field, and Spiller with the handoff. And nowhere to go. Brought down by Justin Houston.
Well, rookie Jeff Toole has had an interesting day so far. That pretty good completion to get things going. Then a beautiful long touchdown throw to Marquise Goodwin. But then the last time he was up, a severe overthrow that resulted in a Kansas City interception and a subsequent field goal. So that is something that Jeff Toole has got to drive from the memory banks, that overthrow.
Loss of a yard on the play, and that pass to the sideline is complete. And out of bounds is Robert Woods, and we get another update from the guys in New York.
Washington finally on the board.
After a Phillip Rivers turnover. Alfred Morris, he's on my fantasy team. 5-yard TD run into the end zone. 7-7. Skins and Chargers tied late in the second.
Had to get that fantasy team in, huh?
I did.
Back to Greg and Dan.
I always said that Shannon Sharp lives in the fantasy world.
A very manageable third down after that completion by Toole.
To the throw for it. And there's his tight end Chandler. And Chandler out to about the 38-yard line. That's good for a first down.
And again, Jeff Toole looking very composed so far early in the game. Throwing the ball with accuracy, with the exception of just a couple that have gotten away from him. He's had a couple drops, but 7 out of 10. That is, from a percentage standpoint, an impressive start.
This is Deshaun's choice. And he'll move it to the 40-yard line. With NFL Mobile, you can get live video access to exclusive premium content on your smartphone. Call ** NFL to download or go to NFL.com/mobile to learn more. Message and data rates may apply. E.J. Manuel looking on from the sideline, and from all indications, he may be ready to go.
On your left, on your left, on your left.
2nd and 8. This is Spiller. And Spiller close to the 45-yard line.
And Greg, getting C.J. Spiller loose, I think, is what everybody in this stadium is waiting to see. He didn't play last week. He rested that high ankle sprain. But this is Mr. Explosive in the Buffalo running game. And so far, he's been pretty much held in check. 4 carries, 14 yards. Getting him on the edge, getting him to make somebody miss, and the big play is what Buffalo really needs.
There's a quick pass complete to Robert Woods, and Woods has the first down across midfield to the Kansas City 48.
And it's got to be exciting for Bills fans to watch Robert Woods, how he's developing here in his rookie year. the second-round draft pick from Southern Cal. Every week you just see him improving his route running, his recognition, his awareness.
Here's a pitch for Spiller. And Spiller, not much there when he turns the corner. I think we're seeing from Jeff Toole what Doug Marrone told us he likes about him, that he throws the short passes and the outs very, very well.
And then, of course, they took a couple shots, and they clearly surprised Kansas City. After running the go pattern and not getting a completion, to come right back with it, it looked like Kansas City was sitting on something short and got caught flat-footed.
This is Spiller. And Spiller with room up the middle. 30. 20. And out of bounds.
Well, that's what I was talking about just a couple plays ago. That's the C.J. Spiller and what he can do with an ordinary play. But look at the blocking up front here. Look at the crease that he finds, and when he cuts back, the Kansas City pursuit just isn't there. And Spiller smartly goes out of bounds. And you can see the way he pulled up. I think that ankle is still bothering him. That run hurt. That's not good news for Buffalo.
Toole throwing for the end zone, incomplete.
Oh, it sailed on him again, Greg. Going for Robert Woods, trying to get him in the end zone, and again, that ball just got away from Jeff Toole in a bit of an overthrow. Pretty apparent, though, that Jeff Toole and Robert Woods are on the same page, but that just doesn't look good with C.J. Spiller acting like his ankle's bothering him again.
The flip for Stevie Johnson, and Johnson to the 10. Fighting his way to about the 6-yard line.
Well, how about that play by Buffalo? A read option, and then instead of the quarterback running with it after the read option, he's going to throw it. And that was a slick-looking play that Kansas City had trouble dealing with. Normally after that read option, it's the quarterback who just takes it upfield.
That's enough for a first down. It's 1st and goal for Toole and the Bills. Fred Jackson in the backfield. Quick snap. And penalty markers fly.
Well, now we've got 2 penalties.
And a half.
Thrown by the umpire. He threw his flag for one, his hat for the second. And that ball was not supposed to be snapped by Eric Wood when it was. And it almost went over Toole's head.
False start. Center. A 5-yard penalty. There is no foul for unnecessary roughness.
Let's take a look.
Well, you can see there was a flinch. Yeah, that's because the whistles are blowing, and that's really not a penalty. That's a good play. That would have been unfair to find Kendrick Lewis guilty of a penalty there. That was not a malicious hit, and the whistles were just in the process of being blown.
So now it's 1st and goal from the 11. Toole, quick pass over the middle, and Stevie Johnson gets some of it back to about the 8-yard line. And we have 2:20 to play in the first half.
Well, if Buffalo is able to get this into the end zone and go up 14-3, there will be some shockwaves being felt all the way to Missouri, which is quite a ways from here.
A few raised eyebrows around the league at that, too, as we hit the 2-minute warning.
Bob Sutton, the defensive coordinator, he's got to get his guys to stiffen.
2 minutes to play here in the first half. 7-3 Bills, and they're knocking on the door. Welcome back, everyone. Verizon Halftime Report upcoming. JB, Dan, Shannon, Boomer, and Coach will have scores and highlights on the Verizon Halftime Report from New York.
And good news for the Bills, C.J. Spiller is back on the field in this 2nd and goal situation. So where it looked like he was a little nicked up earlier on this drive. It's good news for Buffalo. He's back out
The
there.
north end zone. Official clock.
Ron Winter talking about one of the clocks on the field not operating as expected.
I think one of the play clocks isn't functioning.
On 2nd and goal, Toole threw it away under pressure.
Well, that was an intelligent play by the rookie. I think this was intentionally going to go out to C.J. Spiller, running a little flare out into the flat, and he was completely covered. So smart play by Toole to just dump that off.
Spiller comes out. Tashard Choice back in on 3rd and goal.
Well, Tashard Choice is a good pass blocker.
Hey, overload.
We'll see if that's what his assignment is.
Hold up. Overload. Hey,
And a little confusion up front. Jeff Toole calls timeout. So each team down now to 2 timeouts, and Jeff Toole just wanted to make sure to get this right.
Well, Bob Sutton, the defensive coordinator of Kansas City, gave him an overload look. And again, that was very smart by Jeff Toole. You got the timeouts. This is a critical situation. Use one. Be smart about it. That was well done.
On 3rd and goal, Toole with time, end zone, incomplete. Robert Woods had it, couldn't hold on. Marcus Cooper wrestled it away.
Well, Marcus Cooper was just in his grill in terms of the coverage. And this is a completion if it isn't for the fact that Cooper just stays right in there. I know he's got his hand around the back, but he doesn't turn the receiver. He didn't turn Woods. And Toole's looking for the flag, but that is just outstanding coverage by Marcus Cooper.
Dan Carpenter from 26 yards. And the Bills get 3 points out of it. 1:47 to play in the first half. And they're back to a 7-point lead.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Toyota Care. Scheduled maintenance, no cost. And by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you gotta get DirecTV.
Welcome back to Buffalo. 10-3 Bills. They will kick it away after the Dan Carpenter 26-yard field goal, and the rookie Nile Davis, the 3rd-round draft choice out of Arkansas,
Who's got
is at the goal line.
Tremendous speed, Greg. 4.37 at the combine.
They will get a chance to run this one from the 6-yard line. Davis out to the 30 in a hurry. Buffalo's had their chances, Dan.
Well, you know, they've got a 7-point lead, but early in the game, Leonis McKelvin returned a punt for a touchdown, but it was brought back. And then they had a chance to recover a fumble, but they couldn't do it. Kansas City kept possession. Then the overthrow resulted in an interception, and then, that was so close to a touchdown just mere seconds ago. So while they're enjoying a 1-touchdown lead, Doug Marrone's club could be in a little more comfortable of a spot.
Alex Smith, Dwayne Bowe, across the 40 to the 41-yard line and a first down. Kansas City has trailed at halftime just once this season. That was against Dallas. Ended up winning that game by a point, 17-16.
But Alex Smith is calling another play at the line. I'm surprised they didn't have 2 called, but they could execute it a little quicker than this.
Each team with 2 timeouts remaining. On the quick slant, Donnie Avery to the 48.
And now Alex Smith is going to take a timeout.
Once again, a reminder, the Verizon halftime report. The guys in New York standing by. That would be JV, Dan Marino, Shannon Sharp, Boomer Esiason, Coach Bill Cowher. They'll have scores and highlights coming up on the Verizon halftime report. In this first half, Kansas City has run the ball 7 times and have thrown the ball 22 times.
Which is Andy Reid in the past has
Calling
been known,
card.
he has been known to get away from the running game, which certainly through the first 8 games of the season, he did not get away from it. He was feeding Jamal Charles over and over and over again. Not so much today. Charles only has 6 carries.
2nd and 3. Quick movement on the left side, and that was Brandon Albert.
Yep, he just came out of his stance a little early.
False. 76. 5-yard penalty. Remains 2nd down.
Well, Brandon Albert knew that he had Mario Williams across from him, and he bailed out early.
That's 15 false start penalties for Kansas City. That's the most in the NFL this season.
Kansas City is an excellent screen team. That's always been one of Andy Reid's calling cards.
On 2nd and 8, deeper drop this time, and the long pass and wide open and out of the hands of Dexter McCluster. Oh, he'll have nightmares about that one.
You cannot be. It's a complete mistake by the Bills defensively. And on top of it all, one of their guys falls to the ground, and Alex Smith could not have done it any better if he would have put that on a silver tray and handed it to Dexter McCluster. Wow. Some mistakes are bigger than others. That one is monumental.
3rd and 8. Screen, left side, going nowhere. Jamal Charles corralled by the rookie Kiko Alonso.
Well, we talked about what a good screen team Kansas City is, and obviously Buffalo defensively has been studying it. Kiko Alonso, who had the responsibility to trail Jamal Charles no matter where he went right to the source and made the play.
And the Bills used the second time out here to stop the clock with 47 seconds remaining.
Let's go back and take a look at that coverage on the McCluster play. McCluster, number 22, there to the right of your screen, and the 2 guys run into each other, and then when you get that opportunity, you just can't not turn it into a big play. Roby, Williams, they collide, and they were the beneficiaries of Dexter McCluster just losing his concentration.
Leotis McKelvin on the receiving end of this punt.
A dangerous return guy. And he's going to have a shot here
From his own 5. And out to about the 20-yard line. Now 35 seconds remaining in a first half and 1 timeout.
Well, I don't think you asked Jeff Toole to do anything crazy here. Maybe if McKelvin would have gotten him up around the 35 or 40-yard line, maybe something wild, but I would have to think that Doug Marrone would be more than happy to go into the locker room here, up 10-3.
Doug Marrone was very clear about the fact. He says Jeff Toole, he tells him he doesn't want him to feel like he has to go out and win this game. Spiller.
And that certainly didn't take anybody by surprise that he handed the ball off.
And that looks like that'll do it for the first half. No one's in much of a hurry to do anything except let the clock run out.
No, but right now, this half played out pretty darn well for Doug Marrone and the Buffalo Bills. Now, they've been aided by some Kansas City miscues. If Dexter McCluster is able to handle that, it's a 10-10 ball game going in at halftime.
The Buffalo Bills serve notice. There's someone to deal with here this afternoon. 10-3 Bills at halftime. We're back with the Verizon Halftime Report after this message and a word from your local station. You're watching the NFL on CBS. Intercepted. Picked off by Kansas City's Kendrick Lewis. And out out of the hands of Dexter McCluster. And he hits his man, Marquise Goodwin, for the touchdown. Halftime in Buffalo. We get set for the start of the second half. It is 10-3 Buffalo leading the Kansas City Chiefs. And let's take a look at the first half performance presented by Intel. Big play.
Well, no question about it. A perfectly thrown ball from Toole to Goodwin. And again, it just caught Kansas City completely unawares defensively because they had just taken a shot just prior to that with the go route. And it was covered very well. Greg, how do the Chiefs get back into this thing? I think they got to find some balance offensively. They've run 31 plays in the first half, the Chiefs. 7 of them were runs, 24 of them passing plays. Well, that's not working. I think they've got to find some balance, find a running game here in the second half.
They haven't been able to run it against that Buffalo defense, which is formidable. And the fact is, if you usually in tight games you look at the turnover margin, but it's the Bills who turned the ball over in the first half and survived it.
Well, the big play was made, as we saw right there, by Buffalo, and a big play was not made, to illustrate it, with that drop by McCluster on the other side by the guys in red.
Craig Gumbel, along with my fellow popsicle, Dan Deerdorf, at Ralph Wilson Stadium as we get set for the start of the second half.
An unseasonably cool day here. It's beautiful with the sun shining and whatever, but again, the temperature only in the 30s for the third day of November. That is a little frosty, frost on the pumpkin here in western New York.
Marquise Goodwin, who has the only touchdown of the day. We'll watch this one sail through the end zone. And so the Bills will start from their own 20-yard line as you take a look at some first half numbers.
And you can see that the turnover belongs to Kansas City. They forced a Toole interception and they turned it into 3 points. But again, it has just been a lack of the ability to make the big play by Kansas City.
You said at the very top of the day, Dan, for Kansas City, follow the plan, and that hasn't been the case with the lack of the running game so far.
No, it hasn't. Jamal Charles just a much bigger factor running the football than he has been in the first half here, 26 yards.
This is C.J. Spiller, and Spiller, first down yardage and then some, 40, 45, midfield, cuts it back, still on his feet with a blocker in front of him, inside the 20-yard line, and that's what C.J. Spiller brings to the Buffalo offense.
We talked about it over and over in the first half, how desperately this offense needs the explosiveness of C.J. Spiller. He doesn't encounter a Kansas City Chief until he's about 8 yards into their defense. Then he runs over a couple, makes a couple more miss. And even then, you saw C.J. Spiller had to be kind of measured when he made a cut. He's still not 100%, and yet still able to do that.
61-yard pickup, and Fred Jackson follows that up, and he's down to the 12-yard line where he's smacked down pretty good.
And all you talk about at halftime, if you're Bob Sutton and the Kansas City defense, is we're going to force a 3 and out. We're going to set the tone. We're going to get our offense going in good field position. And guess what? This happens. All of a sudden, C.J. Spiller breaks a big run, and that run by Fred Jackson was a tone setter.
The longest play by the Bills this season. Jackson. Just inside the 10-yard line, Mike DeVito and Tyson Jackson converge on him there.
See, the real balance offensively is Doug Marone's club, they've actually run the ball more than they've thrown it, which is exactly what you thought they'd do with a rookie making his first NFL start. You see that 18 rushes, 15 passes. No secret how you protect a rookie quarterback. That's how you do it.
First and goal for Buffalo, just inside the 10. Jackson still on his feet to the 1.
Well, the Kansas City defense is having trouble having the first guy get the Buffalo runners to the ground. And right there, you see it right through 2 tackles goes Fred Jackson. The stiff arm right to the face of Kendrick Lewis. Prior to that, he made Justin Houston miss. And this is an inspired Buffalo team that's putting it to Kansas City right now.
Second and goal. Play fake, throwing, and incomplete. Intended for Scott Chandler. Penalty markers are down in the end zone.
Pass interference. Defense, number 56. Because the foul occurred in the end zone, ball will be put to the 1-yard line. First down.
Derek Johnson, the linebacker, guilty of the pass interference right here.
Derek Johnson doesn't know where the football is, and he just runs over Scott Chandler. He just had no awareness at all of where the football was. Fortunately, that wasn't a catchable ball.
On first and goal, Fred Jackson is cut down before he reaches the line of scrimmage by Derek Johnson.
Well, that Fred Jackson didn't run over anybody there. That's how you make a tackle at that part. Take a look at that forearm tackle, dropping the shoulder right in there. Well done.
Second and goal. Jackson again, and Jackson's not going to get there. Grabbed this time by Dontari Poe.
Well, Dontari Poe, all season long, has been setting the tone for the Kansas City defense from his nose tackle position. Don't even think about playing a 3-4 unless you've got a guy like that, a Vince Wilfork type heavy-duty guy on the center position, and that's what Dontari Poe has provided. Now, what he gives you is the ability to rush the passer as well.
Third and goal. That pass is intercepted at the goal line. Picked off by Sean Smith. Smith up the sideline with blockers in front of him. This is going to be a Kansas City touchdown.
The fourth time this season the Chiefs have an interception returned for a touchdown. And a magnificent opportunity for the Buffalo Bills disappears in the time it takes Sean Smith to run 101 yards. And nothing makes a defensive coordinator happier than a drive-saving, maybe game-saving turnaround like that.
Those 6 interception returns for Kansas City, the most in the NFL. Sucker to tie the game. Talk about a turnaround. 10-10, 10:58 to play in the third. The shock in this stadium goes from the fans in the stands all the way down to the sideline where Jeff Toole has been on the headset.
Well, he's trying to figure out what it was Sean Smith doing there. And when you look at it, Sean Smith, he might have blown the coverage because I think he's got coverage on Stevie Johnson and lets him go.
Marquise Goodwin deep for the kick. And he will. Did he? No, he did not cross the goal line, so this will be a touchback. Let's go back to that play.
Yeah, because here's Sean Smith right here. Here's Stevie Johnson. He's going to let Johnson go. Johnson is going to stand all alone in the back of the end zone. Watch this. I mean, he lets Johnson go. If Toole sees Johnson standing there, he just has to flip it to him, but instead he throws to a spot where he thought TJ Graham was going to come in from behind, and yes, he was completely surprised that Sean Smith was just standing there 1 yard back in the end zone, and the ball comes right to him.
And the only time the Bills threw the ball on that drive, it turns into a touchdown for Kansas City. This is C.J. Spiller, and Spiller plows his way out to about the 28-yard line.
Well, we told you that was Kansas City's 4th pick six. First of all, week 1, Tamba Ali intercepts a Blaine Gabbert pass and goes in. Week 3, Eric Berry picks off Michael Vick. And then week 6 in Oakland, Hussein Abdullah, he returned to Terrell Pryor. And here comes number 4, Sean Smith picks off Jeff Toole. And that is a pretty active defense. 4 pick sixes in 9 games.
Interesting to see now how Jeff Toole reacts and comes back. This is Tashard Choice looking for the first down and appears to have it just across the 30-yard line.
Well, it's a funny game, isn't it, Greg? Because if Jeff Toole just flips the ball to Stevie Johnson, we're going, wow, what a mistake by Sean Smith, just completely letting his man run to the into the back of the end zone, undefended, and instead, Sean Smith is a hero.
First down for Buffalo. This is Jackson. Jackson cuts it back and out to about the 37, maybe the 38 if we get an NFL Today update from New York. Guys.
Key play leading to a skin score.
Yes, JB, this is how the game became tied up. Not on this play, but watch this great reception by the French pastry chef, Pierre Garçon. 38 yards, lead to a 1-yard touchdown run by the Redskins' Darrell Young, and we're 14-14.
All right, back to Greg and Dan.
All right, guys, thank you. Here's Fred Jackson, and Jackson appears to very close to a first down just across the 40-yard line. Akeem Jordan with the hit. And it is a first down, another one for the Bills.
And Buffalo still is going to hammer away with the running game against this Kansas City defense.
Well, part of the test for a young quarterback, for any quarterback, is how well do you rebound from something like that.
Well, absolutely. And I don't care what anybody says, that leaves a mark. That stings, especially when you're on the way to really padding your lead.
Jackson to the outside has another first down into Kansas City territory.
And these Buffalo running backs just aren't cooperating at all with this Kansas City defense, because Kansas City is running up to these guys and acting like they're just going to fall down, and it's not happening.
And C.J. Spiller back onto the field.
Take a look at that Buffalo running game so far, 192 yards already.
This is Spiller. And this time dragged down by big number 98, Anthony Toribio.
Well, this Kansas City defense, they got the ball club back into the game, tying it up with that interception return. But Bob Sutton can't be happy the way they're getting gashed on the ground. They're well on their way to giving up over 200 yards rushing in a game, Greg, and that very seldom do you win games when you do that.
And if it isn't C.J. Spiller, it's Fred Jackson. And from here, Fred Jackson, it's Tashard Choice. Quick slant, incomplete. Intended for Robert Woods. Covered by Sean Smith.
Covered, blanketed, whatever you want to call it, still within the 5-yard area. Absolutely perfect coverage by Sean Smith. Nothing even remotely resembling holding, illegal contact, or interference. That was just beautifully played.
3rd and 10.
Again, run heavy for Buffalo. That's no surprise. There's a Kansas City overload on the far side.
They'll give it to Choice, and Choice inside the 40 to about the 37. That'll be about 3 yards short of a first down.
Boy, but how about that? Buffalo ran away from it. I don't think they audibled to it.
And you don't see the punting unit coming right onto the field. Instead, Fred Jackson comes onto the field.
Well, it's too far for a field goal, and what you pick up by punting is no more than maybe 10 or 15 yards. So absolutely, go for it.
Doug Marrone likes the way his team has been running the football today. 4th and 3.
They're down to 5 seconds on the play clock.
Toole going to loft it down the sideline. Incomplete. Intended for T.J. Graham.
Well, that talk about all or nothing.
A.J. Graham had a couple of steps.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. Allstate. Are you in good hands? And by Chili's. $20 dinner for two.
.6:43 to play in the third. You know, we have a great deal of respect for all of our guys on our crew, but that's George Graffio, and he is up where it's even colder than where we are down here, Dan.
Protection from the wind up there, and he'll let us know about it for the rest of the season, too. First down.
McCluster looking for running room and won't find much of it.
Well, Andy elects to go with a running play, but an end around which goes absolutely nowhere. We talked about finding some balance. Only the 8th rushing play of this game. And this Kansas City offense is getting their first taste of football since they had the ball in the second quarter. On the clock, they haven't run a play in a long time.
2nd and 14. Quick slant, incomplete. It'll be 3rd down.
A late flag came in.
Now a flag comes. That is late.
Pass interference. Defense number 24. Penalized at the spot of the foul. And 1st down.
Almost ridiculously late.
Yeah, that's Stephon Gilmore, their number 1 pick last year. Dwayne Bowe, just a quick slant to the inside. I don't think there's any question. You could see that Gilmore put his right hand on Bowe's right shoulder and impeded his progress and actually turned his torso. That was a deserved flag.
So you wonder what took so long. On 1st down now. Alex Smith stepping up, throwing wide open over the middle is Anthony Fasano, the tight end. 40-yard line, 1st down.
Well, Arthur Moats is the linebacker who in coverage is trying to run with Fasano. And again, a crossing pattern and a trailing crossing pattern at that. There was one crossing pattern that went across the middle to clear it out, and then Fasano comes in a trail position and cleans up.
Kansas City now at the Buffalo 39. This is Charles. And Charles with running room right up the middle. Inside the 30 to about the 27. A reminder for you, see why millions of fans have followed Person of Interest to its new night and time. Don't miss a new episode Tuesday at 10, 9 Central, only CBS.
Well, getting Jamal Charles loose in the running game a little bit, I think it's just critical for the rest of this game for the Chiefs to try to force something out of their running game.
On 1st down, Charles again. And Charles to about the 22. That'll be a pickup of 5.
Which is a good, solid play on 1st down. And I just think they were completely out of kilter in the first half. Pass versus the run. Remember at the intermission, they had 7 runs, 24 passes. That is, I just don't think that's going into that. That's not the kind of balance that a winning team plays.
2nd and 5.
They're up to 10 versus 25.
Alex Smith going far side of the field and diving, making the catch. It is incomplete. Donnie Avery made a nice play over there. Not nice enough.
Well, Leotis McKelvin doesn't give him much in the way of room. And I think Avery, when he lands out of bounds, he doesn't have complete control of the football. The ball bounces off the ground, it looks like it.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, good work by the official. He saw that. He was in perfect position to make that call.
3rd and 5.
A great job by Avery of controlling his feet, but not the football.
Smith lobbing this one down the sideline, incomplete. It was Charles out in the backfield.
Oh, and that time, Just wonderful coverage by Aaron Williams, the safety. Williams single-handedly made that an incompletion. Trying to run a little wheel route up the sidelines, and he stuffed it out.
Jamal Charles has run for 6 touchdowns and caught 2 more touchdown passes. So now here is Succa. Going to try this one from 41 yards to give Kansas City the lead. On its way. And good. Kansas City with its first lead of the day. It's 13-10. We're just under 4 minutes to play here in the third quarter. And the Chiefs lead for the first time this afternoon by a field goal. 13-10, Marquise Goodwin, who has the only touchdown of the day for the Buffalo Bills on the receiving end of a pass from Jeff Toole, is deep. Not run this one back, so it'll come out to the 20-yard line, and that's where the Bills will start. Toole back on the field, and we'll be back right after this.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Mercedes-Benz and the all-new CLA. And by Pfizer.
Look at how numbers don't mean everything. Boy, the disparity in yards, but there are those 2 turnovers at end.
Turnovers can negate a lot of yardage. Those 2 turnovers equal 10 points.
This is Fred Jackson off the left side for a couple. These are the numbers on the day so far. An efficient Alex Smith. And C.J. Spiller has chalked up, gobbled up yardage at times.
It's just the disparity between running and passing for Kansas City. They've only rushed the ball 10 times all day.
Toole setting up the screen that doesn't work. Fred Jackson, the intended receiver, there were Chiefs all over it.
And right now you got to think that, the Kansas City defense, which has been, they've been caught flat-footed a few times here. You'd have to think now for the first time, hey, wait a minute. We've got a lead. It's up to us to start acting a little more like a team who's 8-0 and got a chance to head into the bye at 9-0.
Toole, sideline. Marquise Goodwin couldn't hold. Penalty marker in the backfield.
Could this be a roughing the passer call against Kansas City?
Personal foul, roughing the passer. Defense, number 24.
The quarterback Brandon Flowers.
And a first down.
Flowers loops in underneath. Well, he goes by in front of Toole. And wow.
Really kind of left his leg out there.
Wow, that is
a tough call to take.
Man, I just can't believe it. I don't agree with that call at all. No, I'm sorry. That was completely inadvertent.
Here's Spiller. And Spiller can't dance away from trouble here. And he's brought down to the line of scrimmage.
I mean, Greg, how do you call that? The penalty is called roughing the passer. I don't know how you could interpret that as roughing the passer. That's in terms of what it takes to be a personal foul in a game of contact. I know the quarterback is protected, but wow, I don't see it.
Pass over the far sideline. That's complete to Chandler. You're right, Dan. That is about as incidental as it gets.
Yeah, I know it's intent. It doesn't factor into it, but to me that just wasn't roughing.
So it's another first down now for the Bills, who have moved out to their own 48-yard line. And C.J. Spiller still in the backfield for the Bills. Toole going to go deep. Incomplete. A little hand fighting down the sideline between Robert Woods and Marcus Cooper.
Now Marcus Cooper has, the rookie from Rutgers, has been in the middle of a lot of different plays, and Robert Woods is still on the ground. But look at it. You see the beauty of that in terms of Cooper was look at him playing the football. He's got his hand on him. That's all right. But he's playing the football.
And Woods is still down. Well, Robert Woods continuing to get a lot of attention on the near sideline after that last incompletion.
He just looks reluctant to walk away.
Well, he's headed for the locker room.
Yeah, he did land kind of hard on the one knee. You wonder if maybe some type of a knee bruise or something. But luckily you didn't see anything in terms of, planting and having a knee flex. Or
Woods has 4 catches for 44 yards today.
And let me tell you, he's a young man with a bright future. Now, the Bills saw a bright future. That's why they drafted him in the 2nd round. He's got a really big upside.
2nd and 10 for Toole and the Bills. Spiller out of the backfield, takes that pass, running room up the sideline, and here he goes, out of bounds. We'll see where they mark it, but it's at about the 25-yard line.
When you blitz a rookie quarterback, you're hoping he makes a bad choice. They blitz Toole, here comes the corner blitz, and he makes a brilliant decision. He immediately goes to his outlet, C.J. Spiller, and the blitz completely ineffective because of the quick release, quick decision making by Jeff Toole.
Spiller gets a breather, Fred Jackson, left side, and he goes nowhere. Oh, Derek Johnson came steamrolling from the inside to make the stop.
Derek Johnson went to his 2nd Pro Bowl last year, and talk about reading it and knifing upfield. And Fred Jackson, who's been breaking his share of tackles in this game, no chance with that.
Loss of 1, 2nd and 11. Jackson again. Jackson squeezes through on the left side to the 15, to the 13-yard line.
This is some inspired running that we're seeing today by both Spiller and Jackson. All right, let's take a look. A good double team at the point of attack, Ligursky and Wood. But again, it is Fred Jackson running through tackles and getting positive yardage after contact.
A season high, 216 yards rushing.
Yeah, good block also by Cordy Glenn over there, who's having a great year at left tackle.
Tashard Choice takes the fake, and now it's Toole sliding down at about the 11th.
Well, once again, Toole finds himself deep in Kansas City territory. You remember what happened the last time they were down here. Sean Smith ran a pick back for 101 yards. Are they saying 100 yards even? I think they should give him 101.
You can tell when Christmas is coming. That's a pass that goes nowhere. Tashard Choice out of the backfield, and Toole may have chosen poorly on that pass.
Yeah, that actually was a break to be incomplete.
3rd and 8. Choice in the backfield.
Do they come after Toole?
That pass. Oh, 2 receivers at the 5-yard line, and neither one of them could corral it. Scott Chandler and Marquise Goodwin.
And they're both on that side, and Chandler is the intended receiver, and Goodwin reaches in with his right hand and knocks the ball away. And it almost ended up being a Kansas City interception. I think it's pretty safe to say that Marquise Goodwin, the rookie, was not supposed to be in that position, and he was not supposed to knock it away from Chandler.
Dan Carpenter. from 30 yards. And we have a tie game with 20 seconds to play in the third quarter. The Bills and the Chiefs, 13 apiece. Hey, Thursday on CBS, Will Arnett, Margot Martindale, Bo Bridges star in the #1 new comedy, The Millers, Thursday after The Big Bang Theory.
Well, you can see right there the Kansas City without 148 yards of offense, but when you get 10 points off of Buffalo turnovers, that's why we've got a 13-all game at this point. And again, I just want to go back to that point. I think Kansas City has got to try to establish some kind of a running game in the fourth quarter. They need more balance.
Clinton Demps from the 1 to the 20. And out of bounds just across the 25-yard line. 14 seconds to play in the third quarter. Well, Dan, here we have the Kansas City Chiefs with the best record in the league coming into Buffalo. And the Bills have not backed down 1 inch. And you have to credit Doug Marone's club. You know, he believes in this team and how well they compete, and he's down to his #3 quarterback, and they're still right here at 13 apiece.
Well, and he should be proud of how well they compete, Greg. You know, I think they've played 5 games or decided by 3 points or less. They've been routed by no one. They just play hard for all 60 minutes.
Jamal Charles well covered out of the backfield and spun out of bounds by Manny Lawson.
We saw Manny Lawson have to sit out the game last week down in New Orleans because of that hamstring injury, and Jerry Hughes was forced into a lot of coverage situations. They're much better with Lawson in that role.
And with that, the clock winds down. We have played 3 here in Buffalo. We're tied at 13. The Chiefs and the Bills back after this message and a word from your local station. Along with our producer Mark Wolf and our director Suzanne Smith, Greg Gumbel, Dan Deerdorf, and the rest of our terrific CBS Sports crew in Buffalo, we start the fourth quarter. Kansas City looking for a 9th straight win to start this season. And Buffalo tied at 13 apiece.
Good look there. Only 41 yards rushing on the day for Kansas City, way below their average.
2nd and 12. Under pressure, Alex Smith on the move. Out of bounds, short of the 35-yard line.
And that's something that we haven't been seeing much of today from Alex Smith. Getting out like that and making something happen. And again, you can tell it's the fourth quarter because there's a little urgency now to this Kansas City offense.
Well, Kansas City's defense has allowed opponents 17 points in the fourth quarter, and that's the low number in the NFL.
Well, they haven't allowed anybody to score more than 17 all season.
3rd and 4. Smith on the slant, incomplete. Intended for Bo. Broken up by Gilmore. And Gilmore has played a tough ball game today.
Well, you know, Gilmore had to play earlier this year with a cast on his hand. It really hindered his movement. And just at the last second, look at the left hand of Gilmore get in there, and it actually hits the football, and then he pins the arms of Dwayne Bowe down. And again, the reliance on the passing game isn't working for Kansas City.
The Chiefs have to kick it to the very dangerous Leotis McKelvin. McKelvin drifting back inside his 10. And returns it maybe about 3 or 4 yards.
No flags, no flags.
Just a reminder, coming up next here on CBS, Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers, Tom Brady and the Patriots, or the Ravens and the Browns. Check your local listings for the game in your area. Now, Bob Sutton, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, did tell us this. With the exception of the opener at Jacksonville, every single game the Chiefs have played this season has hung in the balance in the fourth quarter.
No, they're used to playing tight games. And obviously being 8-0, they're used to succeeding in those tight games. And again, this is where the pressure on a rookie quarterback gets ratcheted up.
C.J. Spiller in the backfield. Spiller with the football, going nowhere. Wrapped up by Mike DeVito.
You know, Mike DeVito was such a successful defensive lineman for the Jets. And, you know, Bob Sutton, who spent 13 years with the Jets, he couldn't gobble up DeVito fast enough and get him on this Kansas City defense when they signed him in free agency. Mike DeVito is just one of those guys that you love to have on your football team. Not a Pro Bowl football player, but he's a football player. Always in the right place.
Loss of 2, 2nd and 12. Going to run it up the middle and slide down at the 13-yard line. It'll be 3rd and 10.
And Jeff Toole realizes, I hope, that that's why he did what he did right there, that you can't afford a mistake. You've already turned the ball over twice. At this stage of the game, you just can't do it at this part of the field. E.J. Manuel, hopefully, will be back next week for the Bills.
Toole over the middle. That's complete. Lost the football. Picked up by the Chiefs. Run in for a touchdown. Tamba Ali. Now, did he hold on to the ball long enough?
Now the officials are talking. The officials are talking. Here comes Graham across the middle. It looked to me like he secured the football, put it away, and started to run with it. I think that's a catch and a fumble.
And happy birthday, Tamba Ali, who celebrates number 30 today.
4 touchdowns.
Well, that's going to be automatically reviewed because it's a scoring play. But at first glance, secured the ball, he put it away, and then the ball gets knocked loose. I don't think there's a question in my mind. That's a catch and a fumble and a Kansas City touchdown.
And the second of the season for Ali, who returned an interception 10 yards in the opener against Jacksonville.
And I think Marcus Cooper, number 31, who has been all over the field, the rookie for the Kansas City Chiefs, knocked that ball away from T.J. Graham.
And a call has come over the crowd here in Buffalo. The extra point is good. 17 points off of 3 turnovers, and the Chiefs grab a 20-13 lead.
Now that
Andy Reid, a little bit of a.
That's it. Now that's a good look-alike. Up in it, there's the real Andy Reid.
Headset and all.
I know Andy's a man of the people, but in this situation, I think he stays on the sidelines.
So now the Bills have to figure out a way to get back into this game, and they'll do it starting at their own 20-yard line. You know, this has been such a strange game, Dan. 17 Buffalo points off of 3 turnovers, and you mentioned while we were away for the timeout what the offense has done versus what the defense has done.
Well, yeah, the Kansas City offense has 2 field goals. They've got a grand total of 6 points. Now, you know, Jeff Toole and this Buffalo offense, you can't change anything now. You know, just because, you know, you get a fumble run in for a touchdown like that, you don't change.
Toole shaking one tackler and slides down at about the 23 or the 24-yard line. Well, we have penalty markers in the backfield.
Well, Toole almost got knocked down by the pass rush. It overwhelmed his right tackle, Eric Pierce.
Holding. Offense number 79. 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
That's Eric Pierce.
Pierce just gets bulldozed hit by Justin Houston, number 50. And Houston almost drags Toole down, but good work by Jeff Toole staying alive. But Eric Pierce got caught by surprise.
So now it's 1st and 20, and the quick pass to Chandler is complete, and he's wrestled out of bounds at about the 17 by Kendrick Lewis.
And again, Jeff Toole, you just don't change anything. You're trying to do high percentage throws. Now they did have success in the first half going deep. They went with back-to-back go routes. The first one didn't work. The second one ended up being a touchdown to Goodwin.
Setting up the screen. Spiller out of bounds at the 30-yard line.
Oh, did C.J. Spiller, did he get caught on the back of his ankle at the end of that play?
He comes up limping.
Hakeem Jordan is going to make the tackle on the sideline. Again, Spiller, watch what happens when he's out of bounds. Jordan's going to land right there. Right there, he hits the back of his leg. And C.J. Spiller came up a little tender after that.
On 1st down now, the pass to the far side is complete, and Stevie Johnson knocked down just short of the 35.
Again, Spiller over on the sidelines, and you can't say enough about Spiller's attitude, his toughness of trying to work through the ankle sprain. If he'd have had his choice, he'd have tried to play last week down in New Orleans, but Doug Marrone said, no, we need you to get healthy.
Toole with time, throwing, and the diving catch made at the 40-yard line by Goodwin. And that'll be another 1st down. You know, Dan, I can't help but think back to, we've seen the toll that this game can take on running backs, and yet Jamal Charles, when you suggested, well, maybe you ought to let up on the number of touches he gets and the time he spends on the field, he kept saying, no, I'm all right.
Yeah, really. I'll tell you one thing, this Kansas City pass rush isn't getting to Toole with any regularity.
Deep. Floater. Incomplete. Marquise Goodwin had Cooper beaten on the play, then had to slow down and come back to break up the interception.
Yeah, that ball came up way short.
That is the 4th time today they've gone after Marcus Cooper on the long route down the sideline.
And Marcus Cooper has been in the middle of everything, but that ball probably a good 5 yards underthrown by Jeff Toole.
2nd and 10. Spinning out of trouble. Toole throwing, and that is incomplete. In and out of the hands of Marcus Easley.
Well, the plays are there to be made, and right now Buffalo just isn't making them. You can't ask any more of your rookie quarterback than to deliver a throw like that.
It feels like we've seen about a month's worth of dropped passes.
Well,
today.
there's 5 of them already today. And again, a rookie quarterback needs help. He needs to be supported by his teammates. And Jeff Toole, while he's made a couple mistakes of his own, hasn't been getting all the help in the world.
Time running down on him, just barely got the snap off in time. Here's the blitz. The pass is incomplete. Overthrew Scott Chandler, his tight end, and they'll have to kick it away.
Well, Bob Sutton dialing up pressure. And again, Sutton's going to come with an all-out blitz right here. And you can see even on a delay kind of coming around the corner, Derek Johnson. And Jeff Toole, no secret, you're going to go after a rookie quarterback, especially in the 4th quarter.
We have seen the ball sail on Toole several times today, and there is no wind down on the field to speak of, at least looking at the flags on the goalpost. Foster won't get a chance to field this one as it bounces out of bounds inside the 30-yard line. About 10.5 to play in the 4th quarter. Jeff Toole retools on the sideline.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by the new LG G2. Learning from you. With LG, it's all possible. Domino's. Visit Domino's.com. And by Bud Light, official beer sponsor of the NFL.
Welcome back to Buffalo. 3 Kansas City turnovers, or takeaways rather, and 17 points. The result.
Well, Kansas City needs them. Kansas City has a whopping total of 154 yards of offense. They've only run 40 plays.
Charles up the middle. Well, to 35 to about the 37-yard line.
Well, if Andy doesn't start running the football now, he's just he's going to go all the way through this thing without running the football. Jamal Charles just gets his 9th carry of the day and a very effective run on first down.
Well, Charles with 52 yards rushing and only another 6 through the air, and this is the guy who came into the game leading the NFL in yards from scrimmage.
Well, give some credit to the Buffalo defense. They've had a good plan for Charles.
On 2nd and 1, he gets the first down and a lot more. Close to midfield, that's a Kansas City first down. Kiko Alonso saved a bigger gain.
Well, when Jamal Charles gets out in the open, Kiko Alonso might have saved. Anytime he's in a situation like this, he's a threat to run away from everybody. And that's twice running right in behind Brandon Albert and Jeff Allen on the left side. And take a look at it, that's with back-to-back rushes now that they get up to a grand total of 13 rushes on the day.
Kansas City now from the zone 49. Charles. A yard to midfield.
Of course, right now you got to think that Mike Pettin, the defensive coordinator of Buffalo, is going to try to stack the box, bring that 8th defender down in there to try to stop the obvious running attack. And if that's the situation, Mike Pettin there on the sideline, Andy and Alex Smith in that situation won't hesitate to put the ball in the air. Andy Reid is never afraid to put the ball in the air.
Jamal Charles, 26 yards in the first half, 39 here in the second. 2nd and 9, he gets the football again. Cutting it back, he'd get about 2.5, maybe 3 to the 47, and it'll bring up a 3rd down for Kansas City.
And that's exactly what Buffalo did there. They had 8 guys down in the box, anticipating the run the whole way, and Kansas City obliged.
Ran behind the rookie right tackle Eric Fisher that time.
Well, the Buffalo crowd is trying to get their defense to come up with a big play.
Well, they've had the wind knocked out of them a couple of times today. 3rd and 6.
This is where Alex Smith has run the football.
Smith under pressure and had to throw it away. Under pressure from number 93, Jamal Westerman.
Well, this was strictly nowhere to go, running the ball upfield, and this was basically a throwaway by Alex Smith. Credit the secondary of the Bills. He had nowhere to go with it.
So Colquitt to kick it away to Leotis McKelvin. This one will be downed inside the 5-yard line. A terrific special teams play down there by Ron Parker, who batted the ball on its way down right there and saved the touchback. You see Buffalo's starting position on drives has not been great, and this one starts from its own 2-yard line.
Look at that guy right there, Ron Parker.
And penalty marker.
Kansas City's arguing that there was a false start on Buffalo.
False start. Offense number 84.
Guess
10
what?
laps after this is to the goal.
That starting position just got
Remains
worse.
first down.
Slightly.
Scott Chandler, the tight end, right there in the middle of your screen. Wow.
That's not a move.
Wow, that was.
First and 11. That's Frank Summers.
Well, Buffalo has this terrible field position. This play by Ron Parker is just special. Locating the ball, looking back over his shoulder, batting it back to his teammate Junior Hemingway, but finding and locating that ball. And Dustin Colquitt, when he found Parker over on the sidelines, there was a little bit of a "I love you, man" moment between the two of them. He appreciated that effort.
Toole throwing out of the end zone, going down the middle of the field. It is caught across the 45-yard line. Marquise Goodwin, it is a catch, and now they're going to have a discussion. Incomplete.
Now they're going to say incomplete. They're going to say that Goodwin didn't complete the process. That ball was severely underthrown, and when you go to the ground, you have to hold on to the football. That's not enough to have a knee down. You've got to hold on to the football and control it. Wow, he's got to be able to put that football away. And I think that this is going to be challenged.
Oh, you bet.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, at this situation of the ballgame, if you're Doug Marrone, you've got to challenge it.
Buffalo challenged the ruling on the field of an incomplete pass.
So Ron Winter's going to have to figure out whether or not that really constituted control as Marquise Goodwin rolled over with the football in the crick of his arm.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Jaguar. See the new model year lineup at JaguarUSA.com. And by the new Windows, one experience for everything in your life.
Ron Winter still looking at the replays as we take another look here.
Well, the question is, where does the process end? You know, Goodwin, okay, the ball doesn't hit the ground. I think he's got it under his control. Keep in mind, this isn't out of bounds. This is in the field of play. Now, when he rolls over there, you can make the argument that it's actually Flowers who knocks the ball out of his hand at the end of it. I don't see where the ground helped him make the catch. But everything the NFL always tells us is about completing the process. And the question is, did Goodwin complete that process when he was lying on his back with the football?
And then lost control when Brandon Flowers
knocked it away.
Reached back and knocked it away.
Keep in mind that the ruling on the field was incomplete. So Ron Winter would have to decide that the process was completed when the ball was lying flat on his back, and I don't know if he's going to do that or not.
Well, Doug Marrone hasn't won a challenge yet so far this year. He would dearly love to win this one.
After review, the ruling on the field stands as an incomplete pass.
I know the crowd here doesn't understand that, but when you watch all the officiating tapes and you hear everything the officials talk about, that the completion of the process does not involve the ball being on the ground. That any way you look at it, at the conclusion of that play, the ball was on the field of play. And the NFL will always err on the side of it being an incomplete pass when push comes to shove.
So instead of the line of scrimmage being the 48, it's back at the 5, and it's 3rd and 7. Toole throwing, sideline, incomplete. It's Chandler, the intended receiver, looking for a flag, and there isn't one.
Well, I think down by a touchdown, you got no choice. Regardless of who you got playing quarterback for you, you've got to put the ball in the air. You got to take some chances. The thing that was lost in that whole thing with Goodwin, how he almost caught it, was that ball was pretty severely underthrown. by Jeff Toole, and that's why if he'd have thrown that ball well downfield, that might have been a different result.
McCluster deep. McCluster hit as soon as he put the ball in at the 46-yard line by Ron Brooks.
Anybody want to sign up and return punts in this league? Feel free to send your applications in to the Kansas City Chiefs. See if you'd like to go back there and try this on for size. Great job by McCluster holding onto the football, taking a pretty doggone big hit.
So the line of scrimmage will be the Kansas City 47. 6.5 to play.
Well, can the Kansas City offensive line grind out a couple first downs here on the ground?
Charles to midfield. Let's get another NFL Today update from New York. JB and Shannon.
As we showed earlier, Phillip Rivers rejuvenated.
And the Chargers come within 3 points. The sluggo route, Keenan Allen, 16 yards. Phillip Rivers, 24-21, but the Redskins have the ball on a drive.
2:29 left in regulation. Greg Gumbel, Dan Dierdorf.
All right, guys, thank you. 6 minutes to play here in regulation. Kansas City with the ball and a 1-touchdown lead. On 2nd and 7, play fake, the throw to the sideline. Dwayne Bowe, complete. And Bowe has a first down at the Buffalo 40-yard line.
And that's the confidence that Andy Reid has in Alex Smith. Even though, you know, the conservative play is to run the football, when you've got a guy that you trust to the extent that Andy trusts Alex Smith and Dwayne Bowe, you go ahead and let him put the football in the air. What do you get? You get the sticks moved. You got a receiver smart enough to stay in bounds after making the catch. And now you got a defense that's not quite sure what to expect. They just can't sit there and play the Charles run.
And time continues to come off the clock. On first down, Jamal Charles, left side, running room. 30. And very close to another first down.
Well,
there's a first down.
You see big plays like that all the time, Greg. Where you saw a run blitz. Kiko Alonso sells out on a blitz, which means the second level of support isn't there. And if the running back breaks through, which is what Charles did, well, now he's into the secondary before somebody can make a play. And back-to-back first downs here by the Chiefs offense has got this Buffalo defense a little unnerved.
And the crowd quiet, and some of them even heading for the parking lot. Charles again. Up the middle for close to 5 to the 25.
And again, a Kansas City field goal makes this a 2-score game. Really puts the pressure on the Bills. Brian Suckup warming up over on the Kansas City sideline.
A season ago in that 35-17 loss to Buffalo, Jamal Charles carried 6 times for 3 yards. Today, he's 15 for 86. With more to come. Charles for 2. As the Chiefs try to close in on that 9-0 start. The last time they did that, the 2003 season.
Well, they're looking right now at about a 40-yard field goal to pad their lead. We saw Andy not afraid to put the ball in the air before. Earlier on this drive, he let Alex Smith put the ball in the air.
Smith in the shotgun. On 33, here's Charles. And Charles is not going to get there.
I'm sure he had to break a tackle to just get back to the line of scrimmage.
Mario Williams. And here comes Ryan Suckup.
And Kansas City should let a lot of time run down here before they snap the ball for this field goal.
this to make it a two-possession game. Succop from 39 yards out. And it's good. Just inside the right upright. And Kansas City's lead is 10 at 23-13.
Well, that was a big-time drive by the Chiefs there when they needed it to get that field goal. They moved the chains. They did it a combination of Jamal Charles running, a critical throw from Alex Smith to Dwayne Bowe to move the sticks, and that was one of the better Kansas City drives of the day.
Well, Kansas City came into this game with a plus 12 turnover differential, the best in the NFL.
Well, you know, Greg, the thing about this now is that the Chiefs are working on going 9-0. You know, the Buffalo defense, they haven't given up a touchdown to this Kansas City offense. Kansas City offensively has generated 3 field goals. They've got 2 defensive touchdowns, a fumble return for a touchdown, and an interception return for a touchdown. The Buffalo defense has been getting it done.
Saw Marquise Goodwin leaving the field. He's their big return guy. Leotis McKelvin now is in the end zone for this kickoff. And McKelvin will not run this one out of the end zone. He'll come out to the 20-yard line for the touchback. Gives us an opportunity to remind you can get inside the mind of a quarterback. Join Phil Simms, Rich Gannon, Steve Berline, Adam Shine, and special guest Gary Danielson on NFL Monday QB. Tomorrow at 6:30 Eastern on CBS Sports Network, the 24-hour home of CBS Sports. Quarterbacks here today.
And again, Alex Smith, this deal down here, 0 turnovers. I know there are no touchdowns to go with it, but Alex Smith just doesn't turn the football over. That's job number 1 when you play defense like the Chiefs do.
Toole throwing, sideline, 30-yard line, Stevie Johnson, and that is complete. And that'll bring us to the 2-minute warning. What a second half the Kansas City Chiefs have had. They've outscored the Bills 20-3. They lead it by 10. We'll see what Buffalo has in store after this. With 2 minutes to play here in the fourth quarter, you see the timeout situation. Kansas City with all 3 of theirs. Buffalo down to 2, having lost the challenge. Jeff Toole on the move, running for the first down marker and out of bounds. He gets the first down inside, or just across the 40 to the 41-yard line. Stops the clock with 1:54.
Well, again, with a 10-point lead, the Buffalo Bills need a field goal and a touchdown. And again, they gobbled up some yardage there without taking up much time. The thing about on the deep balls, Toole has had a couple underthrows.
Sideline pass, and that is complete. And that's out of bounds to Stevie Johnson for another first down.
Well, that was a good, sharp throw from Toole.
1:47 to play. The Bills at the Kansas City 41.
Kansas City has to be careful. It's a fine line between giving up some yardage and being cavalier about it.
Toole, incomplete. Brandon Flowers got a hand on it. It'll be 2nd and 10.
You know, Greg, the one thing today, and we look at this right here, and I'm not sure where Toole was going with that football at all. Stevie Johnson just pulled up if he was the intended receiver. But this Kansas City defense that leads the NFL in sacks does not have a sack of Jeff Toole today.
Toole, another sideline pass, and that's off the hands of Chandler, and that's another dropped pass by the Bills receivers.
Well, Chandler had a dropped pass in the first half, and again, he just unable to handle it, and it's not like Scott Chandler is some terrible receiver. Had 29 receptions coming into this game, and he's got 3 already today, but he's had a couple that just looked awful, and then a half a dozen collectively for the Bills offense. That is not helping out your rookie quarterback.
3rd and 10. And they're going to give it to Jackson, and Jackson to about the 35, and they call a timeout to stop the clock with 1:32 to play.
Well, they don't have any choice but to take their second timeout. And given in that situation, it would take way too long to unpile that group and get back to the line of scrimmage. And again, Doug Marrone, he sees so many things that he likes about these football teams. And how many teams can be competitive when you're down to starting your 3rd different quarterback of the year? All of them with as little experience as this group collectively has for the Bills.
If they were a little closer, you'd think they might take the field goal here and then onside kick.
Yeah, be looking at 52 yards. I think they think that's just too far.
And that sideline pass is incomplete to Stevie Johnson, and the ball will go over on downs.
I don't think there's any question. If they were just a little bit closer, that they would have attempted that field goal.
Who, even in Kansas City, would have believed that as the Chiefs head to their bye week, they would be 9-0.
Nobody. And the great thing about Andy Reid is you say it to him and he goes, well, why would I think that? Why would anybody think that? But good football teams can win in sometimes unorthodox ways. And that's what the Kansas City Chiefs did here today. Without an offensive touchdown, they beat the Buffalo Bills.
And Alex Smith will take a couple of knees and we'll be done here in Buffalo as you look at the Chiefs' upcoming schedule. After the bye, they travel to Denver, where the Broncos will be looking to make up ground in the AFC West.
And their schedule is going to get a whole lot tougher than it's been up to this point. Keep in mind that they beat the Giants, they beat Tennessee, they beat Jacksonville. Their schedule is going to get a whole lot tougher, especially having to play Denver twice. And having to play Denver twice in just a couple of weeks.
And another knee. And Andy Reid. All of those people back in Philadelphia who, for some reason or other, thought that maybe he had forgotten how to coach. He hasn't.
Well, his players believe. That's the important thing. They believe that Big Red is giving them a way to become relevant, and by gosh, are they relevant.
Kansas City's first 9-0 start since 2003. They win it by a score of 23-13. The Bills fall to 3-6 on the year. For Greg Gumbel, Dan Deerdorf, for all of us here in Buffalo, back to New York and James Brown.